Hello everyone, today is 3rd of December. My name is Sahil and welcome to the newspaper analysis. Now guys, first of all, let's have a look on today's GS folder. So today we will be taking a quote from the Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. He says, "Diversity is the engine of invention. It generates creativity that enriches the world." Now, guys, India had always epitomized the diversity into the terms of the diversity of religion, diversity of the cultures, diversity of cuisines, diversity of dressings, etc. However, guys, if we see the present forces, they are questioning the diversity and are trying to proclaim an identity of exclusivity. And into this particular direction, even yesterday, we have taken up an article from the Rajiv Bhargav. However, any attack onto the diversity will be attack onto the creativity which has been instrumental into the development in all the walks of life. Now guys, the diversity has been adequately provided in the UPSC syllabus in GS paper number 1 into the society, as well as into the GS paper number 2 social justice also. The diversity can be an important theme, so please do remember this for the exam and please utilize it. So that's it, and now let's take the newspaper analysis. Now guys, first of all, let's have a look onto the important articles that we will be discussing today. So guys, this first article has been taken from the Business Standard and it is talking about the Apex committee that has been formed for the Paris Agreement goals. Then guys, this second article has also been taken from the Business Standard and very good data has been given here that why India should not shy away from the FTAs and RCEP. Then guys, this article has been taken from the Indian Express and it is talking about the consent for the contempt issue which has just happened. Then guys, this particular article has been taken from the Business Standard and it is talking about the Honeygate scandal. And guys, much implications are there for our GS paper number 4, 2 and 3. Similar article has been there into the Live Mint also and into the Hindu also. Then guys, this article, it is talking about the critical mass concept which has been talked about the government into the immunization. And guys, into the same direction, the UK had become the first country which had approved the Pfizer for the rollout to the general population. So we will be seeing this particular development. Then guys, this article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper and it is talking about the caste census which is being carried by the Tamil Nadu. Then guys, this article is about the wolf warrior diplomacy of the China. We'll be seeing it. Then guys, this article, it is talking about the approach that India should adopt with respect to the China. Then guys, this article again taken from the Hindu newspaper and it is talking about the gender sensitivity into the judiciary. Then guys, this article is talking about the new framework to deal with the Iran. So guys, these are all the important articles that we will be discussing up today, and now let's have them discussed in detail. Now guys, this particular article has been taken from the Business Standard and here we can see that the government, it had framed a AIPA, that is the Apex Committee for the Implementation of the Paris Agreement. Now guys, first of all, let's see from the scratch that what has happened, and I tell you that this article is very important for our GS paper number 3 under the section of environment and ecology related issues, as well as for the prelims also it is a very important thing. Now guys, taking up from the scratch, see, in 2015, Conference of Party 21 COP21 was held into the Paris and there India agreed to the Paris Agreement. Now guys, under the Paris Agreement, the world countries had came together and they had recognized the problems that are being caused by the increasing temperature, and under the Paris Agreement they had said that the countries will be making an effort to contain the global temperature rise to 2 degrees Celsius and if possible to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And in order to contain the temperature to this particular range, some actions are needed. And guys, those actions have been called as the INDC, that is the intended nationally determined contributions. It means that every country will be taking some steps so this ultimate goal can be achieved. Now guys, when we are talking about India had also taken up the 8 INDC targets. Within these 8 INDC targets, there are 3 quantitative targets. It means that India had taken a pledge that into the quantitative term they will be taking up some kind of targets. What are they? Let's see here. See, it has been said that by 2030, 40% of India's electricity demand will be sourced from the non-fossil sources, and into this particular direction you can see that India is focusing on to the solar energy, wind energy, hydropower, and all such kind of things. Second, guys, it has been said that the emissions intensity of the India will be reduced by 33 to 35% by 2030 at the level of 2005. Now just assume, guys, that in suppose in 2005, if 100 unit of pollution was being made, then 33% reduction will be done here. Then, guys, it was said that India will be creating a carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. How it will be done? It will be done by creating the additional forest tree cover, because, guys, you know that the forest or the trees, they absorb the carbon, so carbon sequestration will be carried. Now, guys, all this thing was there that India agreed to. Now, guys, just a few days back we had seen that the G20 summit was held, and into the G20 summit, guys, India had even said that we are well onto the path of achieving the INDC targets that we have taken, and not only we will be achieving, rather we are ahead of that particular thing. And into this particular direction, guys, now the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change had issued the gazette notification, and under this notification it has been said that a high level interministerial apex committee will be formed to see the implementation of the Paris Agreement, these goals, these targets. Now, guys, under this interministerial committee, 14 ministries or the departments, they have been connected together. They have been given the 16 functions. Now, these 16 functions includes that they can give any advisory to any of the government department, any of the government body, any of the institution, so that these targets are achieved. Now, guys, this particular interdepartmental committee will be chaired by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change's secretary. So this is the India's response. Now, guys, if any question comes that into the amidst of the pandemic of COVID-19, what is the response of the world countries? So, guys, into the India's response, you can provide this particular thing. However, guys, if you are remembering, yesterday we have seen an excellent article where we have taken up the 5 case studies that how different countries are embracing the renewable energies. So that particular things you can also take up from there. So, guys, this is all into this particular direction, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now, guys, this article is taken from the Business Standard again, and very important article with respect to the GS paper number 3, economy and the foreign trade. Now, guys, here by the help of some data, it has actually been provided that why India should join the RCEP, and not only, guys, RCEP, India should be into the forefront of all the major FTAs or the free trade agreements. Now, guys, see, when the free trade agreement are talked about, first of all, they mean that a kind of a engagement where the different countries will be coming together and they will give an assurance that they will not discriminate with each other goods by imposing the high tariffs and high duties. This is a FTA. It is a kind of an agreement. It could be bilateral, that is between two countries. It could be multilateral also. Now, often India had shied away from the FTA because India believes that into the FTA, India don't get any benefit. Rather, India faces the problem into the form of increasing current account deficit, because, guys, it has often been said that India imports more, and when the free trade agreements are signed, India's markets are exposed to the other countries and they take the undue advantage. So India had shied away from the FTA, and into this particular direction, guys, RCEP is also an FTA, and India had not signed the RCEP also. Now, this viewpoint of India had been questioned many a times. Even earlier we have taken the editorials onto this particular line. Now, guys, some new aspects are there. Guys, it has been said that into the last 10 years, if we see the compound annual growth rate of the imports into the RCEP countries, by the way, guys, there are 15 countries into the RCEP, that is all the 10 members of the ASEAN plus China, Japan, South Korea, Australia and New Zealand. So, guys, it has been said that into these 15 countries, the import has been increased by 5.9% compound annual growth rate. However, if you just see the world's growth here, then it is just 4.3%. Now, guys, if we actually see just last 3 years data, so into the last 3 years, the import have increased into the RCP countries at the rate of 8.2%, whereas for the entire world, it is just 5.9%. So these data are basically indicating this thing that the appetite of importing the goods is more into the RCEP, and not only into the RCEP, RCEP, guys, it has been seen that all the major unions, for example, the European Union, the NAFTA, that is the North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement, ASEAN, RCEP, all are the major importers. Now, if India will shy away from the FTAs and will not be participating in the major trade blocks, then guys, India cannot systemically harvest the import appetite of the countries which are involved here. Now guys, India is aiming to become an exporting nation. So to be an exporting nation, you need the big appetite of the countries who are importers, and they are the importers. So therefore, India should join the RCEP and should not shy away. Guys, now it has been said that actually how India would have benefited if India would have participated into the RCP. Number one, guys, it has been seen that the size of the RCP, it is so big. You know that more than 30% of the global population is included into the RCP. Moreover, guys, more than 30% of the global GDP is also accounted by the RCEP countries. So this particular big block size would have given several opportunities to India. Moreover, guys, there is the income gap between these countries. Now, how the income gap plays? See, the rich countries, they have the capacity to procure high value goods. Now, guys, if we talk about India, India is still plagued into the middle income group countries, and even into the middle income, India is at the lower level. Now, guys, the income gap in India as well as into some of the countries such as the South Korea, Australia, New Zealand. Now, when we compare these three countries with India, the gap is huge, and as these countries might have deep pockets, they can procure the India's cheap goods or India's less expensive goods into an effective way, and India could have enhanced the import size. Moreover, guys, India also have the cheap labor, because you know that we are enjoying the demographic dividend, and by that cheap labor we can or even would have made more competitive products if government would have given more of the focus. Then guys, it actually had said that RCP is also the home of 5 out of the 20 fastest growing countries in terms of import growth. Now, the countries such as the Cambodia, Vietnam, Philippines, Laos and Brunei, their import have increased because in last few years they have seen the double digit growth rate, as well as their disposable income has also increased. Now, all these particular opportunities would have given much advantages to India if India would have joined the RCEP. So guys, this is all into this particular direction, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this particular article is talking about the consent for the contempt, which has been into the news. Fine. Now, first of all, let's take this particular issue from the very scratch. Guys, we had seen into the past few days that the contempt of court charges are being slapped on many of the people. We have seen that how onto the Prashant Bhushan the contempt charges were framed, after that onto the Kunal Kamra, and now guys, what had happened? Rachita Taneja, she is a comic illustrator. She has been charged for the contempt of court charges. Now guys, when she was being charged, the name came that the Attorney General of India needs to give the sanction. So this entire why sanction is to be taken, in what conditions it is not to be taken, all this thing we will be seeing into this particular direction. First of all, guys, what is the contempt of court? See, the judiciary, they need to preserve their independence as well as their autonomy, and into this particular direction there are certain powers have been given to judiciary, that whenever they think that their such autonomy is being undermined or their prestige is being undermined, they can slap the contempt charges. Now guys, under article number 129, the Supreme Court has been given the powers of the contempt, and under the article number 215, the High Court has also been given the powers that they can initiate the contempt. However guys, into these two articles, the adequate discussion onto the contempt has not been made, the grounds etc has not been defined. So one additional legislation has also been framed by the parliament, that is the Contempt of Court Act 1971, and actually here the contempt has been properly defined. There are two contempts, that is the criminal contempt and the civil contempt. Now guys, the criminal contempt is one where a person is trying to scandalize the judiciary, is trying to lower the authority of the judiciary, or just impacting their dignity, or is raising some kind of prejudices which can interfere with the proceedings of the court. So then the criminal contempt can be charged. However guys, there is a civil contempt also which could be charged if any person refuses to abide by the orders that has been given by the judiciary. So these are the major two types of the contempt. Now guys, under the Contempt of Court Act 1971, there is section number 15. And section number 15 talks about the procedure that is to be followed when the criminal contempt is to be slapped. Now, guys, just let's understand some broad themes. See, either there could be one person who is an individual, he can charge another individual that he had led to the criminal contempt. This could be the case number one. Case number two is that the judiciary itself, that is either the Supreme Court or the High Court itself, they are charging any person for the contempt of court, that is the suo motu. Now it has been said that in case number one, when A person is slamming the B person, then guys, before actually giving the petition to the Supreme Court or the High Court, they have to take up the permission from the Attorney General, if it is the instance where you are making the application into the Supreme Court, or if you are applying into the High Court, then the Advocate General of the state, from them you have to take the consent, and only if they will be giving the approval, your application will be going to the judiciary. However, guys, if the Supreme Court or High Court themselves directly, if they are slapping the contempt of court, they don't need to take the permission from either the Attorney General or the Advocate General, whatever may be the case. Now, guys, it has been said that the power has been given to the Attorney General of India, that he needs to give his consent when the contempt of court with respect to the Supreme Court is concerned. The reason is that in order to save the time of the judiciary against the frivolous petitions, because many a times they might not have any substance. Now, guys, actually it has been said that the Supreme Court used their suo motu power against the Prashant Bhushan. So under article number 129, they slammed him under the contempt of court charges. Now, guys, at that point of time, there was a controversy which emerged. There, Attorney General of India said that here also the Supreme Court had to take up the consent from the Attorney General of India. But the Supreme Court here said that they have the constitutional power under article number 129, and actually judiciary don't need to take any authority. However, AGI was of opinion that they have to take. However, guys, as the Supreme Court is higher into the authority, Supreme Court's viewpoint prevailed. So, guys, this is the entire scenario which has happened here. So, guys, just keep in mind that when the Supreme Court suo motu is using contempt, there is no you need to take the consent. However, if any person is other raising, you need to take the prior approval. So that's all into this particular article, guys. Please do remember it, very important for our GS paper number 2 as well as for polity prelims. So that's it. Now we'll be moving to the next article. Now, guys, there is an article here into the Live Mint, as well as it is into the Business Standard, and even into the Hindu page number 1 also. This article has been carried. It is talking about the Honeygate scandal which has just now happened. Now, guys, what is this Honeygate scandal? See, it has been said that into the aftermath of this pandemic, large number of people are relying on to the immunity boosting products, and here now large number of people are consuming the honey in order to safeguard their health. Now it has been said that a kind of an investigation was made into the 10 major brands of honey in India, which includes the brands such as the Dabur, Patanjali, Zandu, Apis, Himalaya, etc. And it was found that the 77% of the samples, they have failed the test, and actually they are selling the sugar syrup into the name of honey. Honey is being adulterated. Now this sugar syrup, it is gained by the combination of rice, corn, beetroot and sugarcane, and this particular syrup was being imported from China. However, guys, India just raised the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, and under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, the supplies were cut from the China, but to substitute, India now had started to locally produce this sugar syrup. So at least one point we reached the Atmanirbharta. Now, guys, this particular thing is problematic on certain fronts, and these fronts or these implications are much more important for our UPSC exam. Number one front, guys, it is under the ethics paper number 4. Under the topic number 6, the corporate governance has been given, and it has been said that the corporate governance needs to be on to the ethics, because it has been said that right now the corporates, they are characterized by the corporate greed, and under the name of that corporate greed, they are even playing with the health of the citizens just to save their cost. And this is an example of the corporate greed, where the adulteration is just being carried because this syrup, it is relatively far more cheaper to be made. So So a very bad example which you can provide that why the ethics into the corporate behavior is needed. Secondly, guys, see, people are consuming honey because of its intrinsic health benefits. But what actually is happening into the name of honey, they are consuming the more and more sugar, and this excessive consumption of sugar will be leading to the indigestion, which will directly contribute into the diabetes and such kind of thing. So therefore, problematic. After this, guys, what has happened actually, as the sugar syrup is being used, the beekeepers, they are finding it hard to sell their honey, and actually the price realization for the apiculture or the bee farmers, it has just remained to 45% to 50% what it was originally. So guys, when the raw honey was being sold at 150 rupees, now it is just being sold at 65 to 70 rupees, and now the beekeepers are exiting from their this particular business, and it will actually be a blow onto the apiculture business in India. Thirdly, guys, see, bees are not only important for the honey, rather you might have heard that bees, they are one of the biggest pollinators, and by their pollination, guys, seed dispersal and all these kind of things happens. So guys, actually the bees, they preserve the food security of the world, and if the beekeepers will exist in raising the bees, the population of bee will come down, and if population of bee will come down, the food security will be impacted. So this particular scandal is not only a small thing, rather its ramification could be huge. Now guys, this is all into this particular direction. After that, discussing one more concept. See how it was actually identified that they are using the sugar syrup. This particular thing was identified by carrying the nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy test, or NMR test, which is a German technology. Now this NMR spectroscopy, it identifies at the level of molecules, the structures, the proteins, and actually it identifies the adulterated food item. Now guys, this is all into this particular direction, and please utilize this particular reference whenever you are talking about the adulteration into the food. So that's it. Now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, here is a brief update with respect to the vaccine. So guys, here you can see that the United Kingdom has become the first into the world which had approved the Pfizer vaccine for the rollout to the general public. Now guys, within next few couple of days, the UK's population will be administered by this Pfizer vaccine, and seeing it, even the USA is thinking to give a kind of an expedited approval to roll out of the vaccine for general population. Now guys, the Pfizer, we have already seen that this particular vaccine is based onto the messenger RNA platform or the mRNA platform, where our body itself, it is tipped to make the spike protein which actually is there onto the COVID-19 virus. However guys, this entire thing we have discussed in so much of the details earlier also. Now guys, when we talk about India, India is not in a race that anytime soon India might get this Pfizer vaccine, because guys, neither the pre-purchase agreement has been signed, nor guys the clinical trials by Pfizer has been carried into the India. So this is actually the reason. However guys, India is relying onto the vaccine which is being developed by the Serum Institute of India under the collaboration which has been made by the AstraZeneca. Now guys, this AstraZeneca vaccine or the Serum Institute of India vaccine, that is the Covishield, which has also been called by the name of the Chadox 1. This particular vaccine is based on to the immunogenicity, already we had seen. Now guys, India had said that into the vaccine development, all the people or the universal immunization will not be carried. This is the new development which has come, and now the concept of the critical mass has come, which will be given the vaccine. Critical mass, guys, it means the priority groups, and these priority groups, they include the people such as the doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, paramedic staff, frontline workers, sanitation staff, security personnel, elderly, and the other people who are having the comorbidity. It has been said that once this critical mass is given the vaccine, the chain of transmission, it will get broken down, and guys, into the mean course of time, the other people, they themselves can buy the vaccines and can get them administered. Guys, this particular thing will be serving two purposes. Number one, it will be very much fast. Secondly, it will be cheaper for the government of India. Guys, it has been said that if India procures the vaccine for all the people and if it administers to everyone, then nearly $7.8 billion have to be shelled by the India, and right now the capacity is not such there. Hence, the critical mass will be given the vaccine, and into the mean course of time, people themselves can get a dose of vaccine. Guys, in India, the Serum Institute vaccine might be costing anywhere around 250 to 1000 rupees. However, guys, still much of the things have to get clarified into this particular direction, but this is the assumption that is being we can get right now. So this is all into this particular direction, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now, guys, this particular article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper, and it is important for our GS paper number 2 under the topic of the affirmative action or the reservation as a mean for the social empowerment or the economic empowerment. Now, guys, what has happened? The Tamil Nadu, they have decided that they will be carrying a caste census. They have actually identified a commission which will be collecting the caste wise data. Now, guys, there is one particular community, that is the Vaniyar community in Tamil Nadu, and the Vaniyars, they want a 20% of the exclusive reservation into the education on the government jobs. Now, guys, even in 1987-88, there were the violent confrontation which was made by the Vaniyar community, and they have actually been given a kind of a reservation of 20% earlier, but they are not satisfied with it. They are saying that it actually has been clubbed with the other large number of caste, and therefore the actual benefit to the Vaniyar community has not been there. So a caste specific data is being collected. Now, guys, just taking one thing, guys, if you know, into the Indira Sahni case, the Supreme Court specifically said that in any states reservation cannot be more than 50%. But guys, actually Tamil Nadu is already providing the 69% of reservation, and Tamil Nadu says that the proportion of the backward community is much more there. Guys, after that particular thing, one more development. Supreme Court has often said that whenever you are providing the more reservation, you have to provide the quantifiable data to depict that actually backwardness is existing. So, guys, this new commission which Tamil Nadu government is making, it will also be helping into justify their reservation claim. Now, guys, further moving into this particular direction, see, actually, when we talk about the caste specific censuses, then they were carried in India until 1931 as a part of 10-year census. However, guys, after 1931, the caste specific censuses were discontinued. However, only the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, their population was depicted into the censuses which had happened. Guys, the last census happened in 2011. Now, guys, though central government tried to bring a kind of a caste census in 2011 into the form of the social economic caste census. However, guys, due to many of the criticisms that the data was not collected into the right manner and much number of controversies, actually the SCCC data has not also be provided into the entirety. So, guys, it has been said that into that particular absence, now the state governments, they are taking up their own caste or the caste wise specific state censuses, so that they can justify their claim whenever they are providing the kind of reservation to any one particular caste. So, guys, this is all the major issues into this particular direction, and now we'll be taking up the next article. Now, guys, this article has been taken from the Hindu, and it is talking about the wolf warrior diplomacy of China. Now, guys, two things. Number one, guys, such an idea you need to have with respect to the international relation in GS paper number 2, as well as into the essay topics whenever you are writing onto the global order. Such things become important. However, you need not to go into much nitty gritties, because, guys, then it will be not that much relevant for the exam. So you need to be selective yet comprehensive. Now, guys, see, before going into this particular article, let me explain you certain things. See, friends, today whenever there is a problem in any country of the world, there is one most convenient tool which is used by the politicians across the world, and that is the tool of nationalism. Whenever you bring it in any context, people, they get disillusioned, and even they justify any of the action by the state. Now, guys, if you see China is seeing a kind of a political crisis. Number one, guys, China's economic growth is now subsiding. Number two, guys, China is having the internal conflicts. People are now questioning the communist party of China's regime. They are asking about more democracy. Even into the Hong Kong also, they have seen that people are not liking the the Chinese leadership. So guys, what has China done? As everyone into the world is doing, China had brought a new brand of nationalism, and their brand of nationalism is an abrasive brand of nationalism. It means they are much more direct into the confrontation, and they are much more crude when they are talking about their national interest. Now guys, when the national interest of China are concerned onto the foreign platform, when the diplomats of China are raising their nationalistic aspirations, they have become much more vocal, and their brand of diplomacy is called as wolf warrior diplomacy. Wolf warrior diplomacy means that the Chinese diplomats, they are more vocal, more outright, and many a times their language also is very direct, and it lacks a kind of a subtlety. And guys, China is now justifying such wolf warrior diplomacy onto the international fronts by saying that China is not doing anything wrong, rather they are just preserving their nationalism or nationalistic interest. Now guys, see why this particular new orientation has come. Just first of all, let's understand the dynamics of China. See, into the China, there is only one political party, that is the Communist Party of China, or popularly called as the Chinese Communist Party. Now see guys, actually China has become a party state, not a nation state. It means that whatever the party's ideology is, it becomes a Chinese ideology. Now guys, just understand this one thing. If any political ideology has to be relevant, then guys, the political ideology needs to be connected with the emotions of the people. Now see what China is doing. China is keeping the emotions of the people alive by showing the people the dream of the great rejuvenation. The dream of great rejuvenation means that into the past, China was having all the glories into the world, and now those glories have been lost, and again those glories have to be reached. Now see, let's go a little bit beyond the scope of this particular article. Even this thing you will be finding into the US also. How the Donald Trump won the election? He just won the election on one slogan, making America great again. So what was that making America great again? It was also the great rejuvenation. Into the India also, अच्छे दिन आने वाले हैं. It is just nothing but the great rejuvenation which we are talking. So around the world this thing is going on. However, will not be going into that much of the direction. Coming back to the article, so the China dream, the great rejuvenation, it is being shown to the people so that people are emotionally connected with the leadership. After that guys, even the people are being emotionally ignited by driving the patriotic education campaign, that is making people realize that they have duties towards the nation, and the nation is the most important political entity. And this first attempt was made in 1990s. Now guys, even China is making the people realize the century of humiliation, that how Chinese people have been ridiculed by the Japanese first of all, after that by the American interest and all such kind of thing. Then guys, the China is also showing the people that they have their own enemies, and these enemies are against the Chinese culture, Chinese economy, and the number one enemy into this particular direction is US into the west, and into the neighborhood it is India. So this particular agendas are being manufactured. After that guys, the China also is now talking about the anti-corruption drive, because people are very much sensitive with the corruption, because it is an economical as well as moral problem. Now by this particular thing, the Chinese people are being kept emotionally ignited, and when they are emotionally ignited, they will justify their nationalism. And guys, that particular nationalism is being portrayed into the wolf warrior diplomacy, where very vocally China is keeping up their national interest, and even people will approve it, because all these factors will be at the play. Now guys, what are the new attempts by the China into their new brand of nationalism? See, now guys, the Xi Jinping, he had initiated the new patriotic education guidelines in 2019, where even more nationalism is to be imbibed into the people. After that guys, it's specifically indoctrination of the Chinese culture is being carried into the people. After that guys, the things such as the red education is being talked about. What is red education? Red education is the history of the China, as how sacrifices they have carried, or how to preserve their nation, their great men had fought into the China. Then guys, the Xi Jinping is also cultivating a cult of personality. Cult of personality means that Xi Jinping is protruding himself as a magnanimous individual who only can take the China forward into this particular direction. So this is the China's strategy, as how China is playing onto the world as well as onto the domestic stage. So guys, this is all into this particular article, and now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this particular article, it is a kind of a coordinated discussion that has taken place with the Minister of External Affairs S. Jaishankar into the context of the new book that he had written, and the name of the book is the India way. Now guys, he is talking as how the China should be interacted with. However guys, with respect to the exam point of view, much important direct scope is not there. I will recommend that you yourself just read this particular article and just have a kind of an opinion. Moreover guys, much of the things that have been discussed here, many a number of times already we have taken it up. So that's it. Now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this particular article, it is talking about the gender sensitivity into the judiciary, and it becomes a very important topic with respect to our GS paper number 2, social justice and women empowerment, and even in GS paper number 1 it will be relevant. Now guys, what has happened, the Attorney General of India, he had talked about the need of gender sensitivity into the judiciary. Why? See, number one, into the Supreme Court there has never been a women Chief Justice of India, and it calls into the question that whether the judiciary is accommodative of the women or not. Secondly guys, if we see presently into the Supreme Court there need to be 34 judges, and out of this only 2 are the women judges. So you can just see the disparity in terms of the women as well as male judges into the Supreme Court. Similarly guys, even if we talk about the strength of all the Supreme Court as well as High Court judges combined, then guys there are to be 1113 total judges, and out of that only 80 are the female judges. So such low ratio is not only into the Supreme Court but across all the courts into the India, into the higher judiciary. Now there are 6 high courts which are not having even a single sitting female judge. They are the Uttarakhand, Manipur, Meghalaya, Patna, Tripura and the Telangana. So guys, a gender sensitivity into the judiciary also is needed. This is a new dimension which we can provide it into our answer whenever we are writing about the women. Now guys, it has been said that even into the law schools of India there is a need of a gender sensitization. A specific curriculum or a specific subject needs to be integrated there. So guys, a very good data has been provided here and we can use it. So that's it. Now we'll be moving to the next article. Now guys, this particular article has been taken from the Hindu newspaper, and it is talking about the new conditionalities which will be imposed onto the Iran if Iran has to see a reduction into the sanctions. Now guys, let first of all us take some kind of the background. See, it was said that Iran is carrying a kind of an illegal nuclear enrichment. Nuclear enrichment means that they are making the war grade nuclear fissile material, and by that particular material they will be making up the nuclear bombs. Therefore guys, it was said that the Iran should open up all their nuclear facilities to the inspection under the International Atomic Energy Agency. Now guys, Iran agreed to that particular thing, and therefore a joint comprehensive plan of action was signed with the Iran, where Iran will open up the nuclear facilities and the sanctions onto the Iran will be removed. So this JCPOA agreement was signed. However guys, USA withdrew from this JCPOA in 2018, and again sanctions was imposed onto the Iran unilaterally, and since then the Iran problem had been into the limbo. Now Joe Biden, he is coming as the new president, and he says that I am optimistic that the solution with the Iran could be identified. He says that if Iran will agree to all the conditionalities that will be imposed, we will remove the sanctions from the Iran. It has been said by the Joe Biden that actually if Iran moves into the direction of having the nuclear bombs into the West Asia, then it will lead to a mad race of stockpiling the nuclear bombs, and all the countries will be running in that direction, and it will be very much disastrous for the regional stability. So if Iran will be responsible, we will be again thinking to bring a kind of a framework. However guys, exact kind of details of that framework will only be coming when the Joe Biden will officially be assuming his office into the 2021. So this is all into this particular direction guys. We have to wait for this particular thing so that it can evolve properly. So guys, that's all about the today's important newspaper articles. I hope that you are liking our initiative guys. Thank you so much.